We see you as you sit behind the wheel of your truck. We see you shake out the nerves before you pick up your hammer, your scissors, your pots and pans. As you find new ways to keep the lights on and put the pieces back together, we see you. As you straighten the rows, keep your customers safe, and crunch the numbers, we see you. As you head back to work, we see you. You've got this. We're open to help you reopen. Visit bbb.org.
Good afternoon and welcome to this Building Trust in Trying Times webinar. I am your host, Dale Dixon. So good to have you with us. This webinar is being broadcast live via Zoom for BBB accredited businesses. Those are businesses that have taken a pledge to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. They live by a set of 8 standards and they're held accountable to those 8 standards as part of a community of trustworthy businesses. If that's your business, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Today, we're going to do something a bit unique with the webinar. In the past, we've been bringing on guests to talk about a single topic. Today, we have 3 guests and a panel discussion about what we've learned through this COVID-19 pandemic, the impact on business, how it's changing business going forward, and we're looking forward to this conversation. You do have the ability to ask questions of our panelists, and we encourage you to do that. It's really simple. All you have to do is use that Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Type in your question. Also, while you're in that Q&A box, be reading the other questions that are there. Look for a little thumbs up icon. If you click that, you will upvote the question. We're going to answer the questions that have the most upvotes as we come to the close of this webinar. It'll help us answer those questions that are most relevant to a majority of the viewers. So make sure and use that upvote button. We really appreciate it. This webinar and all previous webinars are recorded and are available on social media channels through bbb.org, and we'll put the link up in the chat box as well so that you can have access to that. And there are a number of resources from Better Business Bureau to help your business be better and to work through this difficult time and come out thriving on the other side. So make sure and take advantage of those resources that are available to all BBB accredited businesses. So with that, we're going to introduce our panelists. I'm just going to go through in alphabetical order. We're going to start with AJ Gomez of Global Security and Communication. As President of Global Security and Communication, AJ is responsible for the strategic direction of Global. He has experience in home security, in business security, loss prevention, cameras and CCTV systems, access control home theater, and other home technologies. And Connie Miller is a visionary leader with 24 plus years of executive level management experience. She is also an author. During the past 12 years as president and CEO, Connie has led Icon Credit Union to be high performing in many ways, recently ranked number 7 from over 5,500 credit unions as the healthiest credit union in the country. Connie is the author of Don't Sabotage Your Career. Whitney Brown Grisafi is the president of Ted Brown Music. She and her sister Stephanie are 3rd generation owners of this 89-year-old family business. They operate 6 locations based out of Tacoma, Washington. Recently welcomed Whitney's son Garrison to the company as a store manager. Whitney has served on the National Association of Music Merchants Board, the Alliance of Independent Music Merchants Advisory Board, and is the current president for the National Association of School Music Dealers. So to all of our guests, you will see them as they start answering the questions. Thank you very much for your time today. And we're going to start this out with a very basic open-ended question of how has this quarantine changed your business and where you're at? And I'll start with AJ on that. AJ, what type of changes have you seen in your business specific to the quarantine?
Well, this will be interesting because we never closed. We were considered an essential business. If your alarm's broken, we got to fix it. If you want a new one, we got to fix that. So we were adjusting all the way along the way. What's come up recently here, though, as the state of Washington has allowed contractors back on site, we now have to have visitor logs and signage and hand washing stations and do a multitude of things to help protect our industry and others in the industry. So that's been kind of a new wrinkle in there too. The big adjustment for us is teaching our sales reps were more face-to-face. They if we gave them a lead or had someone to talk to, it was to go see the site. So we've had to help them get their leads and talk to business owners on the phone. So we're meeting daily these days rather than weekly to help them get better at that communication with our potential customers out there too, just as an example.
So an increased level of communication among the internal team and new ways to communicate with your clients and potential clients.
Yeah, they were webinar green here 2 months ago as well.
Okay. Connie Miller, Icon Credit Union.
Sure. So yeah, just before the quarantine, of course, our life was focused on killing germs and staying safe and watching the news and trying to figure out what was real and what wasn't real. And then once the quarantine kind of stepped in, our life shifted. We closed our lobbies. We definitely kept access through drive-through windows. But at that point in time, we really focused quickly on how do we keep our employees safe. And that was everything from travel restrictions to our HR department staying very close to anyone that's experiencing and reported medical situations. But what was interesting, and part of this is we're blessed as a financial institution. We have a lot of tools in place already for our members to conduct their banking through various remote and online channels. So, that was everything from online mobile banking, remote deposit capture, online loan application ability, ATMs, all of those things. So while what we did find is while those weren't the preferred method for some people, we did find that people use the delivery channels, of course, very differently. And I know I've experienced that myself personally, as how I do business today in some situations is very different than before. We clearly saw a doubling of our call center traffic in there, and a lot of employees stepped into that. As far as consumer spending goes, we definitely saw a good decline in consumer lending. People aren't out shopping for autos, for example, if they're concerned about that. What was interesting, I think this is just coincidence of the rate environment we're in. When you get down to close to 0% rate environment, we had a record mortgage month last month. So, but consumers are finding a way to do that remotely, and we just reopened our lobbies, and so that traffic is very slow as people are still being really careful today.
And Whitney with Ted Brown Music.
Well, we're in a whole different world because as considered to be a non-essential business, we had to shut down all of the retail locations, and so we went dark, and it was really interesting in trying to think about how were we going to shut down the stores and clear the people out, let alone clear the product out and secure the product. For instance, guitars, they're made out of wood. You've got to humidify guitars. So, moving guitars into a room where we can humidify and trying to figure out who is going to be helpful in doing that. AJ said something about, the security and all that business. We were worried about security for the stores. But we also have some outside salespeople that call on schools. So schools are shut down, but yet there's still distant learning. So what we call educational sales reps, educational reps had to continue to connect with the band directors, band and orchestra directors. And instead of face-to-face, we had to figure out how to do it virtually. And so that changed a whole lot, and all of a sudden our ed reps who are pretty, want to meet you in person, people had to learn how to do the variety of webinars and meetings and in addition to telephone calls. So that's been an interesting change. We're still closed down. We're hoping the governor will allow us to open up June 1st as a retail store, and we can bring back our employees, let alone we also have teachers, and the teachers had to go virtually. So the one-on-one lesson teachers, they all had to go virtually. And we hadn't planned for that. Unlike the bank, we didn't have anything. We're very much, retail's meant to be open. We're very much come into our store play. So it's been different.
Absolutely. So I want to move into one of the most hot button of topics around this and that we've experienced in having these conversations with businesses, and that's the SBA, PPP, and EIDL loans. And I'm going to start with Connie with this because Icon recently became an SBA approved lender. And what are some of the lessons you've learned through this process? And for all the panelists, you can think about this if you want to share personally or of what you've heard in your industry on how businesses have gone through the process, the application process, the lessons that have been learned in waiting, in the relationship building with banks. So any way you want to approach this, but specific to SBA and this process. So Connie, what are you hearing that would help our businesses?
Well, first of all, if we just kind of take through the journey a little bit, stimulus package and the opportunity to get these loans was rolled out very, very quickly. And finances are very difficult to understand sometimes. And of course, anytime you have a grant application type of tone to something, it's a little bit nervous. So I think in the beginning, businesses were a little bit slow in just trying to understand it and get the facts around it. And there's the fear of, what does it really mean? Is it going to be forgiven or not? And so I think SBA certainly took a lot of criticism just because the volume was so big. But I think they did the best they could in such a short notice in rolling it out. And then finding the partners. We were not an SBA lender at the time, but we really listened carefully to what the need was out there and quickly stepped up and got qualified to do the PPP loans. So one of the things that I observed from the outside was clearly confusion and frustration around the application process. Do you need to go through a bank? How does this all work? What we did clearly find is those that have really good relationships with their bankers certainly had a more successful experience. And so one of the lessons is make sure you're really staying close to the relationship that you have with your banker. They're there to be a partner with you. So I think now there's a lot of confusion out there right now about how should I be tracking my expenses and what can I use the PPP loans for. So I think it's clearly really important to work also with your CPA as there is some expenses that are not going to be deductible. And I think it's important that you understand the bigger picture of how that money is going to be used and make sure that if you really want it forgiven, that you're tracking and using it for the right things.
Whitney, how about you, your experience with the SBA, PPP, and EIDL loans?
One of the frustration, as Connie mentioned, it was frustrating to work through that. We were able to get a PPP loan, and I'm thankful for that because we will be able to use it for our payroll. We're hoping that we get to be open before that forgiveness, all of that 8 weeks starts counting. I know they continue to work on that. But what we're doing is rather than worry about how much of it's forgivable, we're making the right decisions for Ted Brown Music. And we're not going to put everybody back on payroll because that's what it says you have to do in order to get forgiven. We're doing what's right now and making sure that we're making the right business decisions. And at the very least, it is a good loan at a great rate, and that's going to help us maneuver through these really turbulent times as we figure out how to get our doors open again and put people back to work. Our intent is by June 30th, we will have all of our full-time equivalents back on payroll.
That's a fantastic framework from which to make a number of decisions when you talk about we're doing what's in the best interest of Ted Brown, not running the business based on trying to get the full grant out of this rather than the loan. So kudos to you for that. AJ.
Yes, we were a little nervous on the first round. We didn't get it, and we thought we had a relationship with a great bank, and we've done several loans with them over time. And but on the second round, we did get it through, but it still seemed like on the 11th hour. So we're not completely prepared for all the tracking that needs to go on, but our payroll is pretty much 90% of where it's been. Sales are down a bit, but the payroll is remain pretty consistent. So that should be no problem to to use that money effectively. And it does help, it gives you, there's been some tightening of the rules a little bit. Now you have to report and say, gee, I did need the money. Well, of course we needed the money. We needed to have it as a little bit of cushion to know that we can be able to operate. We don't know how many of our customers are going to be okay, and what sales will look like at this point. So, that's something that we've noted as we go forward, as some expectation about, did we need the money for the PPP loan itself?
Let's talk about some of the big pivots that your companies made, and those decisions that you made through the course of the last couple of months, and how those pivots have worked out. But the most significant pivots, either that you've made in your business or that you've heard made in your industry, and the result of that pivot for your business. And I'll start off with Whitney on that.
Well, I think the biggest pivot is, as I mentioned, going from a retail store that's designed to be open to being closed, and how do we work with our customers that need us to be open and or available. So we went from a very hands-on to a very online. This time of year is a really important time of year for getting kids excited about being in the school music program, and that involves allowing them to play instruments. So we had to cancel all of those things and figure out a different way to be able to do that. And we're still in that process, because we'll be doing that, what we call recruiting for music class, online and or with the teachers from a distance. And so that's learning how to do something that we've done for 89 years one way differently is a big thing. And the online, being able to meet with people virtually to show them a product, or just have them shop online. We're still, 6 locations is still mom and pop enough that we didn't have a seamless online experience. And so we've been working on that behind the scenes to make sure that we can provide the customers with the supplies they want. The music is still playing. People still need their reeds and their guitar strings and their new microphones for podcasts and webinars and all that kind of stuff. So we're figuring that stuff out and how to do it from a distance.
So Whitney, I'd like to dive into a bit of the specifics on this, because I've watched Ted Brown Music really pay a lot of attention to Facebook. And within that, there have been some pivots in the way you've approached using Facebook. So would you explain to our audience how you've approached using Facebook? And I don't know if you had been using Facebook this way prior to COVID, or if it started with COVID, but you've really been using Facebook. I see you there often.
Yeah, so we are trying to make sure that the company is trying to be engaging with our music makers. One of the things we asked our people to do was, hey, do a quick self video of how does playing music make you feel, and sharing that information with us, and just trying to keep them playing music. We've shared other. I'm sure all of us have seen some of those, how people are enjoying music together from a distance, Italy out on their balconies and that kind of stuff. So we've been trying to do that as well. And just giving people an opportunity to share music with each other. Is that what you were asking about, Dale?
Yeah, there's that. And I've also seen, you've worked quite a bit on the sales side through Facebook as well.
Oh, yeah. We've tried to do hey, this is the stupid deal of the day, and come and get it while it's still here, and normally whatever price, now it's a quarter of that type of thing, and trying to get people to just continue to remember that Ted Brown Music is here, and we are here to meet your musical needs.
Okay. Connie, big pivot points for the banking industry and for ICON specifically.
Well, clearly, the primary one that really touched home to us was the use of technology, and how we have our meetings, and getting very comfortable with MS, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. And a huge pivot is how you can disperse a large number of people and still feel like you're all connecting with each other. And we have some big strategies we're working on right now, and it's just flowing incredibly well. So that certainly was something that just never in my wildest thoughts would I have thought that we would be operating like we are today and have it go so well. So I think that's a big thing. The second thing is stepping right in immediately to how do we help our members and our customers. And, I mean, our mission statement has we are there to help build your financial success in all stages of your life. And this is just a stage. And so we truly had to step in and get really quickly adjust our policies with things like loan extensions and flexibility around what we're doing and what those banking needs are. And that's everything from how people are getting their cash to using their cards and all kinds of things. So I think the biggest thing, though, by far is the technology and the use of technology and how we are deploying it so quickly and still maintaining the cybersecurity and the member confidentiality.
So were there some things that you did before COVID happened and you had any idea what was happening that you, I'm going to say unwittingly did, that helped on the technology front? And I'll give you an example as you think through that. At Better Business Bureau, we have close to 140 employees, and we've migrated everybody off of desktop computers onto laptops over the course of the last 2 years, which enabled us to have a work from home literally over a weekend. And if we had people working off desktop computers, it wouldn't have been possible. But because we unwittingly had migrated everybody over to the laptops, working from home really got easy. And we upgraded a phone system in the last 6 months so that we were completely soft phones right off the computer. Another unwitting example that really set us up for success going long term. So anything else on the technology front that you did leading up to this that you said, oh, wow, so glad we did that then?
We certainly became very resourceful about the use of laptops more. I don't think in general, I will say we definitely have recognized some things that are really important in that package per se. And I actually think that businesses are going to be creating a remote employee package going forward and, ordering over 100 cameras, for example, that we didn't have before. So no particular thing. We're so regulated and careful with the cybersecurity piece. So we really didn't have a big shift in that area. It was more using software and tools.
Software and tools. AJ, pivot points for you, your company, Global.
Well, the technology changes are something that comes on daily for us. Every time you have a show, everybody's got their one coming out for twice a year, their new products out there. But there are two technologies that came to mind that are being offered today that barely existed as far as regularly marketed here a couple months ago. And one of those is a temp sensing camera. You can tell if somebody has a temperature as they walk through the door. So maybe a school or a larger organization, don't know about a bank and a music store necessarily, but they could know if someone's sick. We can also do facial recognition too. So, which is surprisingly much more affordable than the temp sensor side, but you could identify everybody who's been on a job site as well as everybody who comes into the store and know that they're part of your team, recognize them and that they're a trusted person allowed to come in this entrance, whatever it might be. So we're always on that technology forefront. We weren't ready for some of the remote working situations as far as staff goes. Sales, yes, and the field technicians, yes, we were, but we were very concerned about that security side where Connie had hers all ready to go. I recall one day I was on a conference call and I came around the corner and our people were mingling amongst themselves. They were all breaking that social distance barrier that we do naturally today, right? We easily stay, we kind of maintain our 6 feet apart. And, they kept, some of them kind of came back at me like, oh, we have to because, they explained, well, we have to, we're doing this. I said, no, you don't, it kind of, so that was an adjustment in how we operate our daily basis that, if we go 6 weeks ago, that was brand new. Now it's part of our everyday routine, as an example.
So we have talked about the cash aspect. We've talked about the operational changes that you've seen in your business. Let's talk about culture now and some of the big changes that you've seen with employees maintaining a culture, some changes that you've seen in your culture going forward. But what's happened inside your culture? What are some things that you've done specifically proactively to build culture, keep employees, and this can cover the gamut. We've talked about incentivizing employees to stick with you through this time, or working to keep employees there when you're able to reopen from a furlough perspective. AJ, I'll start with you. Tell us about the culture that you're working to build inside your company, and some of the things that you've done to maintain that culture as things change.
We've always wanted to be flexible for our employees, family oriented. Hey, you got something you need to do, feel free to do it. One of the Washington state requirements is a health check as far as job sites go and workplace. We need to be asking, we're required to ask if you're okay today. So are you well and good? Did you do anything compromising in the last day that we need to know about? Last night, did you go visit somebody at the hospital? Or are you well and good? So we're checking in daily with all of our employees as we see them. Culturally, I can't really say that we've made much of a difference. It's very similar to where we've been before. Open, family oriented, and we're accessible as well. We're all right here.
Whitney, culture.
Well, by having to lay off so many people, one of the things that was really important to us was that we wanted them to continue to feel that they are part of the Ted Brown family. And so as they navigated through unemployment, or we also took advantage of the shared work program for those people that are still working for us, but maybe on a limited basis, on a part-time basis. So we made sure that they were still connected to HR to have HR help navigate the unemployment part. And then just to keep everybody feeling like they're part of the team, we've got some inter-office emails. We ask them to keep looking at their emails on a regular basis, their work email. But we've done, like I had one store manager do individual videos to each of her staff and saying, hey, so-and-so, I'm in the guitar department and look at the guitars, they're missing you and we're taking good care of them. And so we've done some after hours meetings with them just to, hey, what are you guys doing? And just chit chat and trying to make sure that they still feel connected so that when we're ready to call them back, as soon as we're allowed to be open, they're ready to come back. And it also gives us a chance to ask those questions. What's going to make you feel comfortable? Because we have brought some people back and we've been trying to stay in tune with what makes you comfortable and what are the things you need in place to make you ready to come back to work, the safeguards, that type of thing.
And Connie, culture is inside of Icon Credit Union.
Yeah, we've just tried to add a variety of fun things. We actually pulled together Spirit Week as an example and encouraged our team to create some videos and push them out on Microsoft Teams. And part of that was just getting them used to using that. But also staying very connected to the remote employees versus the frontline employees. We have definitely given some extra TLC and found some ways to, they always love food, right? So what can we do there? But we've also done some frontline rotation. So where the number of foot traffic might be down in our locations, we've been able to just rotate and say, we'll pay you, take a few days off and we'll rotate, and you're on call. So if something happens in our absenteeism climbs in, we'll call you. But I think that's been appreciated by the employees and just caring and recognizing, what those things are. We actually do a new weekly newsletter that's just around this particular topic. And, what are we hearing? Just staying, I think the most important thing is staying in close contact, letting them know as a leader that you care about them and that you're going to do everything you can to get through this journey with them. And so far it's gone really well, but we do have a lot of frontline essential employees. So I think the other thing is caring about their needs and balancing that with also how all of our customers, every one of them reacts a little differently.
So we have a number of states represented on this panel. We also have many more states represented, the people viewing this webinar. Let's talk about the steps that you're taking to make your customers feel comfortable when you do open up. What are some of the things, and for those of you who have opened, but what are some of the things you're doing in-house? I'm thinking for Connie, you've got Icon, you've got a number of locations with Ted Brown, Whitney, and then AJ, you're in places of business. So you're really looking at this from different perspectives, but what are some of the things that you're doing to make your customers feel comfortable on this? AJ?
Well, we're going to see them, yes. So we warn them in advance that, hey, we're going to be masked and gloved and wear eye protection. So we're letting them know on those. And I think early on, people were a little bit more concerned. They were kind of checking us on that as well. Where's our rep been that day? But I think you're reassuring that customer that yes, we will. We are taking these precautions. So again, commercially and residentially. So maybe that business may be okay to the idea, but maybe that that homeowner or end user may be a little bit more sensitive to things going down well. We're increasing that communication with the customer via phone, via email in advance. Here's what the job site looks like while we're there. There's requirements even to wipe the work site down while we're there as well. So we're just letting them know in advance. They seem to be okay with it. As time has gone on, I think I'd say 6 weeks ago it wasn't as easy, but it's easier today than it was then.
Connie, what types of things are you doing for customers?
So we did make the decision to put in the plexiglass sneeze guards. We have masks that are available. Employees, it's optional if they want to wear those, especially if they have a sneeze guard. But we also did things like we put clings on the floor just to hopefully naturally set really good barriers with that. We're doing a lot of extra cleaning. We're cleaning our drive-up tubes and, all of those things regularly. We also just looked at any surface things in our lobbies that customers might touch and probably just simply remove the barriers there of where there might be things. So things like magazines and a computer that members use to log in. We've just removed some of those things. Limited access to the public restrooms right now. We're all looking forward to bringing all of that back because it's been part of our culture and all of that. But customers are very willing to do what they can to help. They're also equally as concerned about their personal. So it hasn't been difficult.
And Whitney.
I think probably one of the biggest things is just like Connie talked about, since we have retail stores, we've got sneeze guards in where we can't maintain that 6 feet worth of distance. We'll have hand sanitizer at the front and ask customers to use it. As a music store, we're a really hands-on place. And so probably the biggest change is going to be not only asking them to sanitize their hands before they come in, but then ask for assistance before handling the merchandise. We've always been a store of, yeah, you can touch, please, touch, play, try. People are going to be hesitant, and we're going to be hesitant to have them do that because that just means more sanitizing on our part after they have tried it. But we're going to make sure that there's signage that people understand that the instruments have been sanitized or the products have been sanitized, and we'll remind them with the floor clings about the 6 foot distance and all of that. And probably the bigger thing is we're going to go to appointments or offer appointments for people that want to try instruments, specifically instruments in which you blow, like saxophones and trumpets. And so we'll make those appointments so that the customer knows that the instrument is clean. Then we can quarantine it afterwards and make sure the ones that they tried but didn't buy are quarantined and safe for the next customer that wants to make a purchase.
How have you trained employees to communicate these practices and the things that you're putting into place to the customers, your frontline people? What kind of training has gone in from a safety perspective and also from a customer care perspective? Connie?
I think the most important thing is open communication, encouraging your team. I know the old saying, see something, say something. but in a supportive manner. So we have actually found that our team are really supporting each other and helping each other with those recommendations if they see something. And that's everything from, how close you are in the break room, and is it better off that maybe you don't use the break room right now. But overall, employees are watching out for each other. That's what I'm impressed about. They care about, they're asking each other how they're feeling. If they even hint that they're not feeling good, they're reporting it. So the open communication goes clear to the communication with the HR department, and having the employees feel comfortable that that just needs to be a discussion about where you're at, what event were you at that you've heard that someone was tested positive. So I think it's building the trust that your employees are willing to even share what happens in the off time, because that carries right into the workplace.
AJ, anything that you're specifically instructing your employees as far as dealing with the potential clients?
Yeah, we decided to do a written disclosure that, yes, we're going to follow COVID policies while we're in your home or business. And on day one, we hand them the pen to sign the COVID disclosure with, right? Now we're sharing the pen, that 30 pens. So we had to allow for the idea that we're just going to tell you about it. We're not necessarily going to have you sign anything, but yes, we want the customer to know that we're taking those precautions for their benefit and everybody's benefit, ours too.
And Whitney, any specific ways that you're training your employees in preparation for opening?
We've developed a health and safety plan to help educate our employees on just the basics about COVID-19 viruses and the symptoms, all of those things, so that they can self-identify if necessary, or know where they might put themselves at risk. And then just ask them to, we have 7 specific behaviors that we're asking of them. And one is as easy as cover your mouth for coughs and sneezes. Another one is as easy as wash your hands frequently. And we're going to ask that of the customer. So we've got signage for the door, which is please use a hand sanitizer. Please ask for assistance before touching merchandise. And we'll invite our customers to wear masks for everybody's security. We're not going to confront a customer for not choosing to wear a mask, but we are going to invite them to, and our people will be masked when working directly with customers.
Okay, final question, because we're past time, but this has been really helpful and great to hear a variety of perspectives on this. So last question, a tool, a resource, or a change in the way you operate that you've implemented in the business that is going to carry on post-COVID and whatever the future looks like for your business. So a tool, a change, or a change in operation, a resource or a change in operation that's going to carry forward in your business as far as you can see forward. Whitney.
I think that's an easy one. Curbside pickup. Either call ahead and place your order, or go online and place your order. I think curbside pickup it's been really helpful for us because we've been allowed to do that for the last few weeks. And it's really helpful for people that are busy. So I think that's here to stay, curbside pickup at all of our locations.
Connie.
I think electronic signatures probably as far as the tool goes, but a bigger thing for me is more of a philosophy, and that's the leadership philosophy that stay focused on, you can shift things quickly if the need is there. Don't overanalyze and assess things, because we are doing things today we just never would have thought that we were doing. So I think staying very focused on what the problem is you're solving as well. I've learned a lot about, is the problem really the emotional pain of COVID, or is the problem bigger, which is how do we serve our customers correctly and help our members through this. So I think that's been a big aha for me.
Profound. AJ.
I think the increased use of technology, even on the sales side, where we're going, I'm making a proposal for Dale today. Gee, Dale, let's do a quick webinar. And as we're having that webinar, I'm going to send you the proposal. We're going to go over it together. We can almost increase, the sales reps probably have had to talk to more people to get things done. So it's harder to reach people and everything else. But I think using technology in that day-to-day sales process to let people to do demos for them, to show them examples of the products and how they work, and even review their proposals and things. I think that is something that will definitely be hanging on. You know, everybody's evolved. Every business evolved that's been open for more than 6 months. 90 years, and a credit union. Oh my gosh, that's what we do, I guess. Right? Is just keep changing it.
Fantastic. Thank you, the three of you, so much for taking this time and helping so many businesses that have been on the line with us for this webinar. We really appreciate it. AJ Gomez with Global Security and Communication, Connie Miller, Icon Credit Union, Whitney Grisafi, Ted Brown Music. Thank you to the three of you. We really appreciate you taking this time out of your day to spend with us, sharing your insights and what you've learned in these areas, and helping all of us make our businesses better. I'll remind our viewers that this webinar has been recorded. You can go back and watch it. And if you need to take some more notes on some of the insights that were shared, you're welcome to do that with all the past webinars as well. Find a host of resources from Better Business Bureau to help your business be better during this time. And with that, we'll say have a fantastic day.